Today, I continue the theme of communication, specifically listening. My new devotional, The Secret to Becoming Soulmates, will also help the two of you develop your communication. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book. Now, to order my Soulmates devotional and get access to all my resources for marriage, and I've got a ton of them, after 34 years I should, go to my website, davideclarkephd.com, Clarke with an E on the end of it. If you want to improve your marriage, I've got a book for you. If you want to save your marriage, I've got a book for you. If you're in a marital crisis of any kind, your spouse has walked out, your spouse is having an affair, there's abuse, I've got a book for you, I've got a plan for you. And I do 45-minute phone advice sessions. I do a ton of these every week now. People from across the country, podcast subscribers, YouTube subscribers, people that come across my Focus on the Family interviews, my Janet Partial interviews, they reach out because they need some specific help and a plan from someone they can trust. Even a session or two before passing you on to a local Christian counselor can make all the difference because you're going to have a plan of action coming out of that session. So consider that. You may have a friend that needs some input. And a lot of Christian counselors are well-meaning, they're wonderful people, but they're too sweet, they're too kind, they're too nice, and they're too passive. And you can't wait a couple of months to find out, what do I do? Or they'll often say, well, what do you think you ought to do? Well, what are you kidding? You're coming to me so I can help you. I'm going to tell you what to do. I get the background, give you a clear plan of action. But before I talk about listening, and I'll do that by reading day 35 in my Soulmates devotional, I'll answer a question from a podcast subscriber. And if you're not a podcast subscriber, you should be. What's the matter with you? I think it'll be a great idea. All right, here's the question. I have a husband who will not spend time with me unless he wants sex. Not a good start. He won't talk with me. He won't open up and share personally. He won't listen to me. He shows zero interest in my life. This is not sounding good. He watches sports on TV, plays video games, and works in the yard. He sounds like a barrel of laughs. He'll give me the silent treatment. Okay, here's the key. He'll give me the silent treatment for days and sometimes weeks if I say or do something that upsets him. Oh my goodness, this is abuse. I have tried everything, like most good wives have. I've tried everything. Begging, crying, yelling, counseling, talking to my pastor, reading marriage books. We've even gone to a few marriage seminars. Nothing has worked. What do you suggest? Well, here's what I suggest. So I wrote my book, Enough is Enough. You are married to an abuser. He thinks only of himself and could care less about you. He has no intention of changing. I suggest you stop trying. That's a waste of time and lets him know you're still interested in him, which keeps the abuse going. He's not going to stop it anyway, but he certainly isn't going to stop if he knows you're still wanting things to work. Get my book, Enough is Enough, How to Leave an Abusive Relationship, and follow the steps. It's why I wrote the book. You're going to follow my secret steps to leave him. At this point in time, it's time to leave. Once you are out of the home, he'll have his last chance to change and win you back. I don't recommend divorce. God may guide you down that road, but I recommend you getting away from him. You take your kids, if you've got kids still in the home, and get away. The only time I've ever seen an abusive man change is when like this guy, is when the wife leaves. Now, there's a lot of steps before you leave. Financially, emotionally, that's why I wrote the book, an attorney, support team. You're getting the kids ready, but it's time to leave him. Or you can continue to endure his abuse and be destroyed. I have plenty of ladies who make that choice. I don't have sympathy for that because that is your choice. You got to get out. Okay, let me read day 35 in my The Secret to Becoming Soulmates devotional on listening. I'm going to kind of walk you through this. Again, the big idea, first section of the devotional, is listening. The topic is listening. Basics, here is the teaching. And in this case, of course, it's personal teaching, the blonde and I should have no trouble listening to Sandy, my wife. I mean, as a clinical psychologist, I am highly trained at listening. Course after course and after practicum of listening, active clinical listening. I'm a professional listener. I am. And you can also tell I'm a professional talker. I talk a lot too. But somehow when listening to the blonde talk, my Sandy, my listening skills leave the room. I have been guilty of all 6 of the classic mistakes husbands make when listening to their wives. And here are these mistakes. I'm guilty of every one of them. I'm a Christian psychologist. What's the matter with me? I'm a guy. I'm a man. Number 1, I zone out. Ever have your man zone out? Or man, you can admit this. My mind goes blank. It just shuts down. Sandy asks, are you listening to me? I answer, yes, dear. It's worth a try. She then asks me, what did I just say? Oh, I can't tell her, so it's clear I wasn't listening, and I'm a liar. This is not going well. She's insulted, and now I have to say sorry and listen to her express her anger. I don't need that. Second mistake is I listen in complete and utter silence. Classic male technique. I'm actually listening, but since I say nothing, Sandy thinks I'm not listening. Women have to have some feedback. So she tells the story all over again in a different way, from a different angle. Oh, I get irritated or I zone out and the conversation breaks down. Whose fault is that? My fault, because I wasn't giving her feedback. A woman wants a reaction. She wants a response. She wants you to ask questions. She wants reflection. She wants engagement. I've had to learn that. I know that with my clients. Same thing with Sandy. She's telling a story. I'm listening actively, reflecting and keywords and phrases and asking questions. And she knows I'm involved and she won't repeat the story, and that's good. It's long enough the first time. Third mistake is I tell her she shouldn't feel that way. I did this for years. I'm still guilty of it occasionally. In response to her intense emotions, and women can get very emotional about something, I use my logic to inform her that her emotions are wrong. This doesn't go over well. Now her intense emotions are directed at me. I'm basically telling her, honey, I've heard your story. There's no need for emotions here. It doesn't work. Who am I to tell Sandy she can't feel and express her emotions? Well, that's crazy. Just because I'm not comfortable with her emotions? Dumb. It makes her even more upset. If I thought her emotions were intense before I say, don't have emotions, whoa, you ain't seen nothing yet. Fourth mistake. I interrupt with my own story. My mind's pretty active. I'm always thinking. And so whatever Sandy says reminds me of something about me. In the middle of her story, she's talking. I cut in and start telling a story about my life. I send the message, honey, your story reminds me of a more interesting story about me. Well, this doesn't end well either. This is just selfish. It isn't about me. When Sandy's telling her story, it needs to be about her. Now, after I listen to her story and I reflect and she feels understood, at that point, she wants a response. Sure, I can say, well, that reminds me of something, and then we can talk about my thing. That's fine, but that comes after she feels understood and that I'm interested in her story. Fifth mistake is I give her a solution. Classic male mistake. Did that for years, still can drop into it. Because I give clients solutions all the time, and that's fine. That they're paying me for that. This is my wife. Wives don't want solutions. So when she's done talking about a problem she's facing, or maybe even before she's done, I helpfully provide a solution to her problem. Instead of being grateful, Sandy's angry and feels misunderstood. I have created a second problem that wasn't there before. Husbands have been doing this for centuries. Honey, let me stop you. Here's the answer to your problem. Here's the solution. It never works. Stop doing it. I've had to stop doing it. Sandy will actually tell me, I'm not one of your clients. Don't listen to me and fix me. Just listen to me. Understand me. That's what she's looking for. Number 6, final mistake. I get distracted. Okay, I'm like an ADD sort of a guy. As Sandy is talking, my dumb phone goes off. If I'm dumb enough to have it close to me, it shouldn't be there anyway in a couple talk time. And I look at it. Or something on the television diverts my attention from her. We should not be talking with the television on anyway, but if we are, bad idea. My fault. I'm suddenly not listening. Sandy knows it, and I'm in trouble. Sandy needs my full attention. Your woman, man, needs your full attention when she's talking. And frankly, I can only listen to Sandy. I can't do anything else at the same time. Women can, I've had Sandy, we're talking in the kitchen this morning. She's making cookies, which is the good thing. You treat your woman like a queen, she'll make cookies for you. But anyway, she's making cookies and I'm talking, and she can actually make cookies and talk to me at the same time. And listen, I can't do that. No man can. One thing at a time, one track. Now, I continue in the devotional. These listening mistakes can go both ways, but most of the time, the husband is the guilty party. Women are just better at listening. They're more social. They're more engaged. Without focused listening, there is no communication. There is, however, anger and hurt and feelings of disrespect, and there certainly is conflict. So, the psychologist, that's me, and his blonde, that's my Sandy, have found 3 keys to good listening. First, we use the couple talk times I described in the previous devotional. Remember those couple talk times? To deal with my destructive behavior in making mistakes above. In this quiet, private, distraction-free environment, I can listen attentively. This is as much, the couple talk times, no kids, no pets, no distractions, no devices, is as much for me as it is for Sandy. Because as a man, I can't afford any distractions. Second, we use reflection. I touched on this a minute ago. Reflection. When I reflect, when Sandy's talking, I feed back to Sandy keywords and phrases concerning content, what she's saying, and emotion, how she feels about what she's saying. With reflecting, she feels heard and not just listened to. And when I talk, and believe me, I can talk. Those of you that are subscribers know that. Sandy reflects back to me in the same way. So when I'm telling a story, she's reflecting too. Third, I allow Sandy to call me out when I make a listening mistake. And man, it still happens, of course. And she allows me to call her out if I don't feel listened to. And she will occasionally make a mistake too. All right? There is an apology from the offender, a reset, and we continue the conversation. You can save a conversation if you can call your partner out if they're not doing it the right way. You're not mean about it, you're just firm. For example, she might say, Dave, you're trying to fix my problem. I don't need a solution, just listen. And I can say, oh, you're right, honey, my bad. Where were we? And we get back on track. She could say, Dave, you're not saying anything. I need reflection. This will happen too. I'm kind of focused, but I'm not responding. She says, I need to have reflection. You want me to tell this story again? No. Okay, so I need to reflect. Now, at this point in the devotional, there's the Bible. I always have a Bible verse or two. In this case, it's James 1:19. My dear brothers, James says, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. You see, listening, vitally important, is a biblical principle. And now the breakthrough questions, I'll run through these quickly. Number 1, this is how you develop the conversations in the devotional. Number 1, how would you rate your ability to listen to your spouse? More importantly, ask your spouse to rate you as a listener. Very important to get a feel. You might think that you're doing a great job as a listener, but if you're not, okay, not helpful. Ask your spouse to rate you. Now, I'm much better as a listener with Sandy because of these couple talk times. She would tell you that. I have really improved here. Sandy is almost by nature a good listener, so that's not really been an issue for us. And since I'm such an interesting person, of course, it makes it easier for her to listen. Just kidding. Anyway, number 2, which of the 6 classic listening mistakes apply to you, the ones I just covered? Ask your spouse how she feels when you don't listen. And the truth is, if I'm talking to Sandy here, I've done them all. I'm guilty of all those mistakes. Interrupting with my own story, probably my number 1 mistake. The one thing that Sandy would do, in fact, she did it last night, we're talking on the couch in our couple talk time, and for whatever reason, I'm talking about something, and she said just something stray. She was looking off into the distance, and he brought up some unrelated topic to what I was talking about. I had to say, honey, that's like a stray topic. I'm talking about this. Oh, sorry, you see, gotta call your person out. Number 3, are you both willing to try my 3 solutions to poor listening? Which solution will be the hardest for each of you to do? Why? Talk about that. Certain solutions are going to be more difficult than others. Now, for us, maybe for you too, calling your partner out in the middle of a conversation, yeah, that's tough. It's a little awkward, but if you don't do that, the problem's not corrected, resentment builds up, and the conversation breaks down anyway. Now, finally, bring it to God. The end of every devotional is a prayer time. And I say, holding hands, each of you pray one at a time aloud about listening in your relationship. So you're praying to God about, God, help me listen. I've made some mistakes. And you're being very honest about that. So, now 2 things as I close. Both important. If you're enjoying these podcasts, and I hope you are, please give us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, and share these podcasts with others. We are building an audience here step by step, empowering spouses in marital crisis, improving marriages, and saving marriages with God's help. This will help us continue to grow our audience and, frankly, make a difference. And if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and like this video. This, again, will grow our audience and give us more impact for the kingdom and saving marriages, empowering spouses. Now, second, in my next podcast, the one right after this one, I cover how to avoid the main killers of a marriage. After 34 years in practice, I know what kills marriages, and I'm going to cover that in my next podcast. So until then, Dr. David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E, out.